Welcome to WebsiteUpgradeTester.com, the new cloud-based tool that helps you test any upgrade, service pack, or security patch to your website. In this video, I'm going to walk you through mitigating dynamic, interactive, or randomized content using dynamic regions. Dynamic regions are one of several ways to mitigate out dynamic, interactive, or randomized content so that it does not produce false positive differences in your results. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look. If you open up one of the pages in our Canvas demo site, you can see that it has two interactive counters in the footer of the page. These counters cause this page, and many others that use the same footer, to be different because the counter is at a slightly different count when the screenshot is taken. Here you can see this by looking at the side-by-side comparison of the page. Notice that all other content is the same, just the counter causes the page to be different. And because this footer is rendered on many pages, it will throw the results off, making it harder to see what differences are truly caused by the upgrade. To mitigate this type of interactive content, I can use dynamic regions to remove, replace, or white out that region. In general, there are two kinds of dynamic regions, CSS selector-based and coordinate-based. Each has its own pros and cons. The first kind specifies a CSS selector that targets a specific region of your page and either removes that element or displays a fixed-sized placeholder in its place. The second type, coordinate-based dynamic regions, allows you to specify rectangular coordinates on the page to white out that region by drawing a rectangle over the specified area. The CSS selector method is more exact and is device size independent. However, some basic knowledge of HTML and CSS is required. Also, any CSS selector-based dynamic regions get applied just before the screenshot capture, so their results are stored in the snapshot images. The coordinate-based approach requires no CSS knowledge, but it assumes that the content will always be in the same location on the page for that device size, which might not always be the case. Coordinate-based dynamic regions are not stored with the snapshot image. They are instead applied as part of the comparison, so they have the advantage of not having to rerun the captures. Let's see an example of creating each type. To create a CSS selector-based dynamic region that mitigates the two counters in the footer, we need to find a unique CSS selector that applies to each element. To do this, inspect the element by right-mouse clicking on one of the counters and choose Inspect. Looking at the code, we can see a parent div with a class of counter. Let's use that to identify the elements. You can add and manage dynamic regions from several places. The most straightforward way is to click the Edit icon for a specific page. Let's add one now to remove these counters. I'll simply click the Dynamic Regions tab and then the Add Dynamic Region button. Here we simply give the dynamic region a name, and in this case keep the type as CSS selector and then specify the selector. We'll also choose to remove the element fully. Okay there. Now we can test the dynamic region by clicking the Test button and then choosing a screen size to test. As you can see, the two counters are now gone. The dynamic region worked. Lastly, let's create a dynamic region using coordinates. Remember that this approach can only be used if the dynamic region appears in exactly the same position from page to page. And you may need to create different dynamic regions for each screen size. To create a coordinate-based dynamic region, choose Coordinate-based from the selection list, then click Save and Define Coordinates. Next, click the New Screen Size Coordinates button and choose the screen size. This will then show the snapshot image of the page where you can simply drag out the rectangular region to white it out. Okay, great, that one is saved. We have two regions that we need to white out. Let me do the other one quickly. I'll click New, give it a name, choose Coordinates for the type, and we'll click the Save and Define Coordinate one more time. I'll pick the same screen size. We'll highlight the second counter number and this time I'll choose a blue color. Okay there, I'm done. Let's save this off. I'll click the test button to try it out. This will take a few seconds. Here we go. Let me scroll to the bottom, and yes, you can see this worked as well. Note that because the coordinate-based approach simply draws a rectangle over the coordinate specified, you do not have to generate either the baseline nor comparison screenshot to apply the dynamic region. This can be extremely useful if upgrading in place. Now that you have created one or more dynamic regions, you can apply them to all pages, a selected subset, or just a single page. To apply to all pages, simply check the Apply to All Pages checkbox when creating the dynamic region. To apply to a select set of pages, open your results, multiply select the desired pages, and then choose the Apply Dynamic Region menu option from the More Actions menu. In the Choose Dynamic Regions dialog, simply check one or more dynamic regions, then click the Apply button. To see and manage all of the dynamic regions for the site, click the Site Settings gear icon in the left side menu, then choose the Dynamic Regions menu item. A listing page will be displayed that shows all of the dynamic regions, their type, the screen sizes they apply to, and their usage count. Like in other listing pages, you can toggle an item's state from active to inactive by clicking the green check mark in the status column. Note that any inactive dynamic regions will not be applied when capturing or comparing pages. Okay, that's it. Those are the two types of dynamic regions that can be applied to mitigate dynamic, interactive, or randomized content. Thanks for watching this video on website upgradetester.com. Be sure to check out our other videos for more detailed information. Oh, and if you thought this video was helpful, please like it or share it with others. And if you have comments, please enter them on our YouTube channel. We will try to reply there promptly.